And you are listening to, I don't know if we're going to number these as time goes on, but this is the inaugural podcast, episode 1 of the Press Play podcast. I'm Ian, and with me as always is Garth. Jim to your Marlon Perkins. Seth, say hello to everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Just a little backstory before we get into what we initially want to talk about. Little backstory. We used to do this YouTube series. It was called Word of the Nerd, and we are going to be posting this on YouTube as well under that same channel called Press Start Productions. We did a YouTube series called Word of the Nerd, and we loved doing it so much, but life got in the way. I had to move out here to California, and we were all split up, me, Seth, and the other person we used to work with. And then Seth came out here, and we wanted to do Word of the Nerd so badly, but technologically speaking, we are not at that level yet. So
it's going to take near $3 or $4 grand to build a computer that I need to build to be able to do the video series. So.
Exactly, and we wanted to get back to work. So we decided the next best thing that we could possibly do is, start a podcast, get our opinions out there, because we loved doing this, and we may get back to Word of the Nerd eventually, and even if we do, we're still going to do this podcast if it turns out to be something that we absolutely love to do. So
I missed the hell out of it, man.
Yeah, so we really wanted to just get back to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically talk about everything that we used to talk about. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about TV. It'll be old stuff. It'll be new stuff, as long as it is something that people care about. And one thing that I wanted to do for the inaugural podcast is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Everybody's done a review on the Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, or whatever, but the most recent thing to come out was Spider-Man, and it's still fresh in a lot of people's heads. It definitely sure is mine, because it was such a great movie that I thought that should be our inaugural podcast, and I want to do this at least once a week, so I hope you guys will subscribe. We're going to be available on so many different things. If you want to follow us, just go to our Facebook page, Press Play Podcast, and it is there. I'm actually going to let you take the lead on this one. Like, what are your basic outline opinions of the movie?
All right. Now, the disclaimer that it has been a long time since I've seen the movie. I saw it like the first or second week it was out. But I do remember a lot of it. It was impactful. First of all, I think this is the best live-action Spider-Man movie ever put to film. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was perfect in this film. Tom Holland, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love him as Peter Parker. The nuances he gives with his, with just how he acts. Just he's basically your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and I love how they took him out of New York and his problems followed him, because that's basic just Spider-Man comic. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens to Spider-Man, he's supposed to be your everyday. Anybody could be under the mask, right? And I think they portrayed that perfectly on screen. I did like this one better than I did Homecoming. I liked Homecoming a lot, but I didn't love it. I loved this movie. I had a very good time watching it.
And a couple things that you brought up, I absolutely agree with. This is definitely my favorite version of live-action Spider-Man that we've gotten so far. I've always said I loved Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker, and I loved Andrew Garfield. I loved him as Spider-Man. This is the first one that perfectly encapsulated both, because
both sides of the character.
Because there are two sides to the character. There's the Peter Parker, and then there's the Spider-Man, and I feel like he nails both of them. I agree with you. Like, I love this movie more than Homecoming. I feel like Homecoming was a great way to give him his own movie, because the first time you saw him was in Civil War, and he was great for the maybe 15 minutes of the movie that he was in. And, he was in Infinity War and Endgame, but he wasn't, he wasn't Peter Parker, or he wasn't just Spider-Man.
Those movies, it didn't delve into the character too much. It was basically just, here I am, and this is what Marvel's going to do with me now.
And this is actually a great way to start out. Let's start with Tom Holland. I heard a lot of people complain that it wasn't necessarily a Spider-Man villain. It was a villain just like in Homecoming, where it was more of a Tony Stark villain. But people got to understand that this is a shared universe. We've done what 22, 23 movies at this point. Yeah, they're gonna start, encapsulate, or I don't even know what the word is. They're gonna start overlapping, and it makes sense because Tony Stark is kind of that mentor, and they're both in New York. So, of course, the villains might actually know each other.
Everything started because of Tony.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I loved about this movie and Homecoming is that it started with Tony Stark, but it became Spider-Man's villain. And that's
because he got real personal with him.
He absolutely did. Which
is what makes a great Spider-Man villain.
It really does. And what also makes a great Spider-Man villain is the fact that it doesn't even have to be Spider-Man's. Like, a lot of times when you look at a Batman movie or even an Iron Man movie, the villains are usually their fault. This was not Spider-Man's fault. This is just something he has to deal with.
Yeah, he just kind of fell into it. He just got caught in the middle of it. He was deceived.
He was really the only one around that was available, which is great because it doesn't have to be one of those, like, because of my technology, you are also one of my villains, like you do with so many other these Marvel movies and even DC movies, where it's always like with Ant-Man or Thor or Captain America, it's always a byproduct of their origin. And this is not the case, which I absolutely love. This is just something that he has to deal with.
Yeah. And one thing I did love with what they did with Mysterio was that if you're a Spider-Man fan, you read the comics, you know who Mysterio is from the comics, and then how they start him off. You're like, when I'm from another universe, and I have these magic technology and shit, and it was so cool to see, because I was like, okay, they're going to go different with it, because I didn't watch much of the trailers or anything like that, because all they ever showed was him cooperating with him, and that's how they did it.
Which is brilliant, by the way. Yeah, I love that they only in the trailer showed you the first half of the movie. Yeah. They did not get into anything else. They made me second guess myself. I knew.
Me too.
I knew that Mysterio was a villain, but halfway through the movie, because he's sitting in a bar with Peter Parker and he's being all friendly, and I actually sat there thinking, is he a good? I think he's a good guy.
Yeah, because they've gone cosmic so much in the Marvel universe that I was like, okay, they're going to go this way with Mysterio. I'm cool with it. And then that scene in the bar when he's like, "Well, that was easy,"
and that was hysterical. As soon as that happened, I can tell you, I was sitting in the theater, and it wasn't a sigh of relief, but it was oh, thank God.
Yeah,
because I thought the entire time, well, who's the real villain here? Because they're making it seem like Mysterio. They made a fool out of me, and I knew that Mysterio was a villain. He always has been. He's always been this trickster, this fraud.
Yeah.
And they made me, and that's credit I give to the writers, to definitely Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh yeah, he nailed that. He nailed that role. He really did.
And what I loved the most about Mysterio is another reason I love the Vulture is that in Homecoming, the Vulture, he really wasn't just one guy. There was a team.
Oh, yeah.
But in this one, it's on a much bigger scale. And that goes back to, these are all Tony Stark's employees, people he has pissed off. These are all Tony Stark villains.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I like.
And now that Tony's gone and they're looking to Spider-Man to lead the Avengers and he's not ready for it, that's another thing I love that they got into.
Yes.
Is just how insecure Peter is. Because that never really came up before in the other movies.
Not really, no. Because Tony Stark was always around.
Yeah. Even in the other live-action movies, they never really caught that part of him. Yeah, he was a dweeb and but in the end, when he was Spider-Man, he was Spider-Man.
There's one movie that did that, and it was Spider-Man 2. It delved into his insecurities. He was losing his ability to be Spider-Man, and he just quit.
Yeah.
Which, yes, they did do that well, but I think this one did it better.
I think they did too. The level of responsibility that Happy tried to lay on him.
I was just about to bring that up. That moment when they're in the jet and Peter tells him, like, I'm not going to be the next Iron Man. And he's like, listen, nobody could live up to Tony, not even Tony. So and he took that burden of responsibility off him. And I love that moment, because that you can't get a moment like that from Tony Stark. It had to come from Happy Hogan.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's the only, next to Pepper, he's the person that knew him the best. Maybe Rhodey, I don't know, but I feel like it had to come from Happy Hogan.
I think Happy knew him the best out of probably everybody but Pepper.
Exactly. I absolutely, like, I thought before this movie, Vulture was definitely one of my top 5 favorite villains. I'm honestly going to put him below Mysterio now, because I love what they did with Mysterio. I love the humor when he was, you know, he's like in the theater and he's like running through the rehearsal or whatever. Like, I love how they showed the level he was going to be the next Avenger, but he was also a fraud, and I love that they showed it.
Oh yeah, me too, absolutely. Because that's what Mysterio always has been. He's a big fraud.
But I love that they incorporated the I think it was Civil War with the barf technology, and they even went all the way back to Iron Man 1 with that one guy that Obadiah Stane was yelling at, like, Tony Stark built this with a box of scrap. Like, these people have been here the entire time. And it was a great callback. It absolutely was. There were so many great callbacks, to the point where it wasn't like they were trying to they weren't trying to do an homage. They were just trying to explain to you that this is why Mysterio is here. It wasn't an homage. It was we've been building this the entire time.
Yeah.
And that what was great about this movie as far as the villain goes.
Another thing that made me like what they did with Mysterio is how they got the way that he interferes with Peter's power right. With his spider sense, because he can't trust what he sees, and he can only rely on his spider sense, and that was just brilliant.
And my thing is that why wasn't that working before? And I'm of the belief that, you know, because I mean, think about it.
It was working. It was working, but he didn't know how to use it.
I don't think he knew to trust it. Because think about it. Think about it. For the last 5 years, he's been freaking dead.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've heard this in other podcasts, in other in news articles. It was, he didn't trust it because the last time that he had his spider sense, he was dying because his spider sense let him know that something was wrong. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. That was the last time he used his spider sense. Of course, he's not going to trust it because he doesn't want to listen to it. Because last time he used it, he freaking died.
And then he was forced to use it here.
Exactly.
Which, oh my God, those sequences when he's fighting through the illusions, those are incredible looking.
That is that is probably one, if not for, I would bring up the train sequence in Spider-Man 2, which to this day will be like the second best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. But that scene in the hallway where he's fighting all the drones is probably the best Spider-Man that I've seen on film.
Oh yeah, he's just going through everything. He's barely dodging shit. It was exciting. You might and how many times did they didn't overstay its welcome either. I think they only did like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it was maybe a 3 to 4 minute scene.
Yeah,
which is just the right amount of time.
Yeah, for an action scene like that. Absolutely.
And then the very last part where you think Mysterio's lying there dead, and he just grabs a gun out of nowhere because his spider sense kicked in one more time. I freaking lost it.
I did too.
I can't tell you how much I love that entire scene. I don't know how other people feel, and if you disagree, you're more than welcome to voice your opinion, but I love this version of MJ.
Oh, I do too. It's completely different. It's nothing like what we've seen before on film or in the cartoons.
Yeah, I don't. A lot of people are like, she's not a redhead or she's not white. I could care less about that. I love MJ because this is high school MJ. She's not perfect.
No, she's not.
She's quirky. She's kind of weird. She's kind of dark. And I love this MJ.
And you see it perfectly when they're walking on the bridge. And she tells a dark joke, or no, it was a dark fact.
Yes.
I forget what the fact was, but you could tell that she's doing it because she's nervous.
Yes.
Because she actually likes Peter.
She's just using it to, kind of just break tension or just kind of give herself a personality.
Yeah. And her giving just giving old what's his name, Mr. Bro, the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I love the chemistry between MJ and Peter in this version of Spider-Man. Because like I said, she's different from the comics. She's different from any of the cartoons and movies we've ever seen. And the way she is in this version of Spider-Man is perfect for these movies. It's a great different take on it. They finally got Spider-Man right. Mm-hmm. Now let's go a different direction with MJ and their friends. Even the way they do Flash Thompson is great.
I very much agree with you because, in the comics and even in the other movies, he was this jock bully. He's still a bully, but he's like this nerdy Indian kid. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, you understand why he's the way that he is. And I actually love Ned.
I do.
I loved him in Homecoming. I even loved him in that one part in Infinity War where he's like, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die." I like the fact that it's Ned and we don't have a Harry Osborn because we don't need one. And I feel like maybe one day if they keep this version of Spider-Man, we may get one later. But I like that we don't have one because
I would be totally fine without a Harry Osborn, to tell you the truth. I'd be fine without the Osborns, period.
I totally agree with you because we don't need it because I was after. Backstory. I'm reading articles because that's what I do because I want to know where they're going to go with this universe, and I didn't need to read an article for them to tell me that they have a third one planned because you do not have that mid-credit scene if you plan on just rebooting. And if you don't know, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. You've listened this far.
Yeah.
In the middle, you've got J.K. Simmons. My God.
I lost my mind, dude.
Okay.
That is the best mid-credit scene they've ever done in any Marvel film.
You got the original actor to come back and play J. Jonah Jameson and basically tell the world that this is Spider-Man. You don't do that unless you've got another movie planned.
Exactly.
And do you actually know what the rumor is for the third one?
No, I haven't read anything.
The rumor is that they're planning on Kraven.
Really? The
Yes,
Hunter?
the Hunter, which is great because now the entire world knows who Spider-Man is, and you've got the world's greatest hunter.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, now you've got the world's greatest hunter on his case. Now, you don't do that. But
I do love how they made Jameson a pundit.
Yes.
In the vein of Alex Jones and everything.
Well, and some of the cartoons, he actually is that because, Prince is dying and whatever, so he becomes like the face of the Daily Bugle.
Right.
And I absolutely love that they showed his face, and he's just sitting there like Alex Jones, like, Spider-Man! That was, I think that mid-credit scene alone was worth paying admission to go see this movie.
It was. I would have paid $10 to see that.
Now, I want to get to the credit scene after that.
You talking about at the very
Skrulls.
end, where Fury's a Skrull the whole time?
Yeah, Nick Fury.
I just kind of didn't care.
I didn't care, but it meant a lot for what this universe is about to be because
where they're going with the MCU is they're bringing in the Eternals. It's going all cosmic. And
if you follow Marvel comics at all, which I don't. As much as I should, I'm much more of a DC guy. I'm going to lay it out there. This is episode 1, so if I...
Oh, yeah, me too. We're both of the same...
But I know for a fact that there's a reason that he left the Skrulls to take his place is because Nick Fury is off in space creating S.W.O.R.D., which is basically, like S.H.I.E.L.D. protects the planet, S.W.O.R.D., handles all the other stuff.
Right.
Which... that sets up so much. That doesn't set up another Spider-Man. That sets up what they're going to do from now on because this is the first movie that we have since Endgame. So they're letting us know right now where they're going to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I love that they let us know now because I'm afraid that I'm going to have to sit through at least 4 or 5 more Marvel movies to let us know where the hell we're going with this because, damn it, I need to know now.
Oh, everybody needs to know now, and that's what Marvel does so well. Is they keep your suspense up. They make you want to come back for more. They've slipped up in the past. There's been quite a few Marvel films that I really didn't care for.
Absolutely.
But this one is one that was just they knocked it out of the park, dude. This is the Spider-Man film that I've been waiting for my entire life.
Isn't it amazing that have you seen Into the Spider-Verse?
I watched it actually on Monday. I did. I watched it on Netflix.
Did you love it?
I loved that
dude,
movie.
if you would have told me 5 years ago that my two favorite movies to come out of the last year would both be Sony movies,
Yeah.
I'd have laughed in your fucking face. I'm like, you are out of your mind. That is not happening.
Yeah.
And the two movies that we got out of Sony just happen to be my favorite. And if you haven't seen it, Into the Spider-Verse, it's on Netflix. I love it. It's a wonderful movie. And if you haven't seen Far From Home, you've made it 20 minutes into this goddamn podcast. What are you still doing here?
Exactly. Go watch that movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's at a discount rate at some matinee somewhere.
Oh yeah, we're recording this at a time where it's going to be on video or DVD here in about a month.
Oh yeah,
and that's how long it's been. But I actually, I am at this point, and I brought this up to you maybe 2 months ago. I am at a point with Marvel where the Infinity Saga is over, and I am just going to watch these movies at my own pace.
I'm the same way. It got to the point where I was, I was sad to see it end because it was, oh my God, what a journey.
Yes.
But holy crap, was I tired.
Yeah, I kind of agree because my thing is that this entire saga, I rushed out to the theater weekend one to see these movies. And now that it's over, I'm just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel the same.
No, it doesn't. I mean, their first movie is going to be what, the Eternals?
I
think it's going to be the Eternals,
or is it Guardians or whatever?
In Phase 4, I think it's the Eternals.
Well, technically we're in Phase 4, so technically it'd be Spider-Man.
But either way, I mean, no one gives a shit about the Eternals. No one,
dude. I can also say I don't either. I'm indifferent towards the Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch movie. I don't know. I am excited to see Guardians 3 because I know Thor is going to be a part of it, and I Chris Hemsworth has just killed it as Thor with just his acting prowess, and his comedic timing has been on point.
Oh, he's such a great comedic actor.
Absolutely. But now that it's over, when Iron Man and the Hulk and then Iron Man 2 came out, they were building something that you just could not wait for. But now that this is over, I already know they're going to be building something else.
We just don't know what it is.
I just don't know what it is yet, and I'm just not. We know it's
going to include Galactus.
I don't know if it's going to include Galactus.
This is the only thing that makes sense, though.
Yeah,
if you're going to have a big bad that's going to be on the same threat level as Thanos.
Well, a lot of people are also claiming Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
Which I could absolutely see, but my thing is that
as far as they're going all into space, like with a lot of their films.
Yeah,
and they're bringing back the Fantastic Four, which means at some point you got to bring the Surfer in, and there's no better way to do that than Galactus.
And they're talking. I read that they are trying to figure out how to bring in the X-Men, which means they want to. They just can't figure out how to do it.
I just you know what, with the X-Men, I wouldn't mind if they weren't around, if I didn't see another X-Men film for a good 3-4 years.
I absolutely agree. And if I do see another X-Men movie, I want it to be part of the MCU. Otherwise, I'm going to treat it like Dark Phoenix and not see it.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't see it. The last one I saw was Apocalypse, and I hated it. I hated it so much.
So did I.
I did not see Dark Phoenix, and actually no, that's false. The last one I saw was Logan because it came out in between those two.
Yeah.
I loved Logan, but only because it was just Logan. Of course, I'm going to see him go out, and it wasn't technically part of the timeline that they were trying to tell us. So I was just not interested in Dark Phoenix at all because I already saw it. It was called X-Men 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guarantee you, X-Men 3 was probably better.
I've actually heard that it was.
Oh, that's so bad.
That's bad.
That is so sad. But anything else that you want to talk about with Spider-Man? Because I have I really don't think I have anything else. I can't talk enough good about this movie.
No, I can't either. I think that what they're doing, keep going.
Yeah,
go with the same tone. I love.
Keep the actor.
Keep the actor. Keep the. Build off of what you had at the end of the film, and make Spider-Man hunted. Make it the point where everyone hates Spider-Man. We haven't really seen yet.
That's true, but now
because there was a point in the comics for a long time where everyone hated Spider-Man.
And I feel like with
all of that, and J. Jonah Jameson was a big part of that.
He was, and I feel like with these Skrulls, we might have a chance for them to kind of retcon that and be like, yeah, no, I'm just an alien or whatever. If we get a Skrull war, maybe. But I mean,
But now the Skrulls are good guys, so.
But that means there's also going to be Skrull bad guys, maybe Super Skrulls. I don't know. We just know that they exist because we only got Skrulls 2 movies ago.
Yeah.
They could have been here this entire time, which they might delve into, but I am also afraid they're going to use the Skrulls as kind of a cop-out for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
that's true, and I hope they don't, but it's easy writing.
It is, but it's also lazy writing.
It is.
And that's a problem that I have because, look, I already said I love DC Comics. This is not a DC movie. DC Comics, y'all need to get your S together because they go the easy way a lot.
Yeah, they do. They really do. So I just hope, like I said, with the next Spider-Man film, I hope they keep the villains personal.
Yes.
I don't want something that's going to take over the world.
No,
that's not what Spider-Man's about. Spider-Man doesn't save the world; he saves the city.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't realize in the comic books is that when all of Spider-Man's villains, they never really had a plan to really do much of anything other than to kick his ass. Yeah. Because they hate him.
Maybe try to rob something, or or just take over the city. Nobody was ever trying to take over the world.
Being Spider-Man never solved Peter's problems; it amplified them. Instead of being bullied by people in high school, he's being bullied by villains now, and it just works for him. It works for that character, and it keeps him interesting.
Absolutely. And I like I said with the whole Skrull thing, I hope Marvel has enough integrity to not treat their viewers like idiots. Like, we've been with you for 11 years.
Yeah.
Don't start taking the easy way out with these characters because, yeah, Skrull, like the whole Skrull thing, it's convenient when it needs to be. Like with the Nick Fury thing, because he's off creating Sword. At least that's what I assume. Don't just start retconning stuff because you can.
Right.
And that's pretty much all I had to say about that. You got anything else you want to talk about on Spider-Man?
No. I would just gush some more. So
that's pretty much. We can start talking about. Oh, you remember that one part?
That one part?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty great. I do love that. I love what was it? Night Monkey.
Oh, yes.
Okay. We're not going to gush this entire time. So basically, what I want to delve into now for the next maybe 3 or 4 minutes is we need to figure out what we're going to talk about next time.
I would actually, I had a couple of ideas. We have to talk about CW's Crisis. This is going to be huge.
I feel like that needs to come about when it actually happens, so we can talk about, we can't just...
Maybe we can go into, at one point, just like talk about the origin, the basis for their story,
right.
Talk about the comic, and maybe predict what they're going to do, and talk about the actors that are coming. And
I think it should be like, as soon as it happens, we need to talk about this, what it's based on in the comics, and then give our give and take on it as it arrives instead of making theories.
You know what that means, though? You actually have to watch The Flash now.
Oh, I know. No. I watched The Flash. What I need to watch is Supergirl.
Yes, you do.
I have not seen a single. The only episodes of Supergirl I've seen are the ones that actually are part of the crossover.
Yeah.
I don't know a damn thing about this character. I was just too late and just haven't got into it. Like, I've always wanted to, but I missed my window and it just started stacking on top of me.
It's probably my favorite CW show is Supergirl.
The Flash used to be
until they got stupid,
and then Arrow used to be. Actually, I would honestly say Arrow is my favorite show only because I hate The Flash so much right now.
If Flash gets better.
Okay.
Flash gets better. You have to, this last season that was on, you get about halfway through, and it starts to pick up. Okay,
because that's actually where I left off in that season, was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The show is just so ridiculous at this point.
I almost did, but I stuck with it.
And I'm a superhero guy. Like, I read so many DC comics that I understand this universe, but they're just so ridiculous. Oh, okay. I will give it my shot. So
just know that Thawne's back, and it's Kavanaugh again, and it's great.
All right. What are your thoughts on maybe doing a Back to the Future episode next?
I'd love to do a Back to the Future episode.
Okay. There you go. We'll be back next week with a Back to the Future episode.
Looks like we're going to have a day where we just have a marathon.
Yeah, I'm down.
Need to watch them again for sure because I haven't seen them in a long time.
And here's my thing.
I saw the first one. I've seen that one the most.
I absorb movies so often that I haven't seen all three of those movies in maybe 4 or 5 years. I can talk about them right now.
Oh yeah, I mean I haven't seen. I've seen the first one in the last year or so. I haven't seen the second or third one in years, so I've got to go back and refresh my memory. But I'm sure that I could, if we were to talk about
You'll
it now,
pick right back up on it as soon as you get into it.
We've seen them so many times.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening. This has been the Press Play Podcast, episode